Test, test. 1, 2, 3. Mic check. Test. Are we good, guys? Good on levels? Everyone good? All right, I can get a little more for you. Test, test. Mic. Excellent. Thank you.
Check, 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 check.
What? I'll find out.
Check, check. Test. Is that any better, Willie? Test. 1, 2, 3. Test, test. Check. Check. 1, 2, 3. Check. 1, 2, 3. Test.
Check for press. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is it good? Okay. It's sending the exact same line signal to the box.
I think I switched it, so it might be better.
Yeah, it was probably set to a mic input, and you had it set to line output over there. Yeah, I think that would cause Yep. Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Doug and Louise Jones.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Where are you sitting? Oh, here? Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming today. I so very much appreciate it. As we draw a close to this election, we draw closer to Election Day, I just wanted to talk a few minutes about what this campaign is about, what it's been about, and what its outcome can mean for Alabama. I'm convinced today, as when we began, that the people of this state have more in common than we have that divides us, and that the next senator from Alabama can impact the arc of our state in an amazing way. This is a season of opportunity. An opportunity to come together, to realize an Alabama that will make us all proud. Alabama is at a crossroads, and it's more important than ever that we rise to meet the challenges, both in our great state and across this country. But we can only do it together, not divided, and with a measure of civility that has been absent from our political discussions. I am a proud product and lifelong resident of Alabama, and my family's roots run deep in this state. I was born right here in Birmingham and grew up just down the road in Fairfield. My dad worked at the U.S. Steel plant, as did most of my friends' dads, and so many of my relatives. His father was a coal miner, supplying the coal that was used to make that steel plant run, to make the steel that came out of there that drove that economic engine. Mom was a homemaker who managed our household and managed me and my sister, which was not an easy task. Her dad also worked at U.S. Steel until the day he died. I grew up at a time when the civil rights movement was gaining momentum, an era of desegregation in Alabama and elsewhere. As many of you remember, and as many more have learned, those were tumultuous times for our state. While the severity of the conflict back then was greater than it is today, I can't help but notice similarities to our political culture that exist right now and how divided we are. Once again, we seem to be pitting one segment of our society against another. During my youth, I watched people on both sides of that conflict. There were men like George Wallace and Bull Connor who were self-serving and destructive. But there were also men and women like John Lewis and Amelia Boynton who were willing to sacrifice everything in the fight for justice and equality. Growing up during that pivotal period of Alabama's history fueled my desire to study law, to work to make our state, my home, your home, a much better place. In 1997, I was honored to be appointed to serve as the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. I was nominated by a Democratic president, but confirmed by a Republican Senate. But it was an even greater honor to actually serve my community, and it helped shape the next 20 years of my life. During my time as U.S. Attorney, my office prosecuted hundreds of drug dealers and violent criminals in order to make our community safer. And I had one of the toughest child protection units in the country, prosecuting predators who would sexually exploit our children. I fought against terrorists like Eric Rudolph, who detonated a bomb that killed a Birmingham police officer, and others who sought to use fear and hatred and violence to inhibit the rights and freedoms of others. But clearly, my proudest moment came when I got the chance to help bring some healing to this community for an act so despicable that it altered the course of the civil rights movement, to alter the course of our state and our country. As you know, on September 15th, 1963, members of the Ku Klux Klan planted a bomb beneath the steps of the 16th Street Baptist Church here in Birmingham. The ensuing explosion wounded more than 20 and killed 4 little girls: Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Morris Wesley, Carol Robertson, and Denise McNair. Addie Mae's sister, Sarah, who still lives here in Birmingham, was severely injured. When I accepted the challenge of prosecuting 2 of the men responsible, Tommy Blanton and Bobby Frank Cherry, I understood that as an Alabaman and as an American, it would likely be the most important task that I would ever undertake. My closing argument to that jury, I said then, it's never too late for the truth to be told. It's never too late for a man to be held accountable for his crimes. I could not have been prouder that when, after more than 35 years, the perpetrators of that terrible crime were finally brought to justice. I believe that closing that chapter on our ugly history was an essential step to bringing people from every corner of this state closer together. The guilty verdicts were, in many ways, representative of just how far Alabama has come since those dark days. We have so much to be proud of here in Alabama, from the tech hub in Huntsville to the medical and healthcare communities here in Birmingham, to the maritime, aviation, and trade infrastructures in Mobile, and to the automobile manufacturing industry throughout this state. Our potential is boundless, but we also face great challenges. Our schools in many regions of this state are underperforming and well below national standards. Our overall health care is in a mess, and rural hospitals, which are often a lifeline, a vital lifeline for both the economy of the areas and as treatment centers for communities, are in crisis and disappearing at alarming rates. Yet while we've had our struggles, we've not been able to get much relief because of the perpetual dysfunction in Washington, D.C. The extreme partisanship that has emerged over the last few years has made it nearly impossible for anyone to get anything done for the betterment of our nation or for the benefit of its people. I've spent my career in service of Alabama, working with anyone regardless of their politics or beliefs in order to help the people of this state. I'll take that same approach to the halls of the United States Senate. Work across the political aisle with anyone, whether it's Senator Shelby or members of our congressional delegation, or anyone else who recognizes that our responsibility, our duty and obligation is to work for the people, not to drive self-serving political interest. Thank you. I want to go to Washington to address the issues that everyday Alabamans face and to fix the institutions that are vital to our health and our economy. When I talk about those infamous kitchen tables that we've been crisscrossing the state talking about constantly, I mean the challenges that we deal with each and every day. Finding a good paying job, making sure our kids and grandchildren are getting the best education possible, knowing that when we are sick or our family members get sick, that we'll have the best health care and that we can pay for our medicine. My top priority is to working to make sure everyone in Alabama has access to affordable health care, especially our seniors, our veterans, pregnant women, and our children. But you know, right now, Congress seems so gridlocked that they just haven't been able to find a solution, even to funding the child's health care program. You know, the CHIP funding helps more than 150,000 Alabama kids, helps them have access to health care that they couldn't otherwise afford. Today, these programs are in jeopardy, and I'll fight for their funding because providing health care is not just an investment in the future of those children, it's an investment in our future. Of course, along with health care, we have to focus on improving education and access to education for all Alabamans, regardless of the zip code they live in. I want to make sure we save public education in this state. Thank you. You know, right now, Alabama is in competition for a $1.6 billion Toyota Mazda manufacturing plant, which would bring 4,000 jobs to this state. When Toyota is trying to decide whether to expand their operation here, they're going to want to know what our state is doing to build a workforce that can operate their facilities. But a serious question that you have to ask yourself is this: does the idea of Senator Roy Moore make it more or less likely that Toyota or anyone else would see Alabama's image in such a negative way that they would cross Alabama off their list and move on to another state? Now, folks, look, I fully understand that for many, many people in this state, that the answer to that question, to that very serious question, may be very hard to accept. But if we are honest with ourselves, if we dig deep and look at ourselves and are honest with ourselves, we all know the answer. Roy Moore in the United States Senate would be a disaster for business in Alabama. Thank you. Roy Moore has spent his entire life using whatever position he was in to create conflict and division in order to promote his personal agenda. He was kicked off the bench twice for violating his solemn oath of office by completely disregarding the rule of law that he was sworn to uphold. And in the process, he has demeaned so many of the citizens of this state. He created his nonprofit only to personally enrich himself and his family. And to add insult to injury, this nonprofit was a so-called religious charity that was supposed to be promoting Christian values, not Roy Moore. But despite what you hear in his TV ads, folks, Roy Moore has never, ever served our state with honor. He has never, ever been a source of pride for the people of this state, only a source of embarrassment. And make no mistake, he was already an embarrassment to this state before 9 courageous women chose to share their deeply personal and disturbing encounters with him from a time when he was a 30-something-year-old assistant district attorney, and they were only teenagers, one as young as 14. Folks, by any objective standard or review that examines the extensive corroboration of the statements of these women and, significantly, the inconsistencies of Roy Moore's denials, it is crystal clear that these women are telling the truth and Roy Moore is not. People in this state need to remember that his denials now are not unlike the testimony he gave the last time he was kicked off the judicial bench when the court of the judiciary unanimously found that his self-serving testimony was not credible and was in fact misleading. As I have said before, I believe these women, and so should you. At the end of the day, though, this is about rising above political party to do what's right for Alabama and for the country. We and we alone have to decide the message that we will send, not just to the country, but to our children. We need to look at this as parents, not voters. Will we tell our daughters that if you're abused and if you speak out, you will be believed and Alabama will stand with you regardless of when you come forward? Or will we tell our young sons that this behavior, this disturbing behavior, is okay? If you're powerful enough or important enough, Alabama will simply look the other way. We didn't look the other way with Robert Bentley when his conduct involved consenting adults, and we cannot do it now when it involves children, no matter how long ago it might have occurred. We need to look at this as parents, as grandparents, and not through the jaded lens of politics. This is about decency and not a political party. And anyone who thinks otherwise should be ashamed. It is the people of Alabama, the parents of Alabama, who will hold Roy Moore accountable. This is about Alabama's honor and doing what is right. Nothing more and certainly nothing less. I believe the contrast between myself and my opponent could not be clearer. I've never been fired from a job I've held. I've never lived off of donations to a so-called charitable foundation. I have always served honorably and have personally earned every dime my family has. Significantly, a contrast is this as well. I don't demean my fellow citizens, but treat everyone with dignity and respect. Despite the silly name calling, my record as a prosecutor speaks for itself. I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. When you see me with a gun, folks, I'll be climbing in and out of a deer stand or a turkey blind, not prancing around on a stage in a cowboy suit. And perhaps most significantly, and for those that have followed this campaign from the beginning and those that have followed my career, I believe women are every bit as capable as men, that they deserve to be elected to public office. I believe they deserve equal pay for equal work, and I damn sure believe that I have done my part to ensure that men who hurt little girls should go to jail and not the United States Senate. Thank you. You know, on a personal note, I've got a wife I love, elderly parents that I have to care for. I got children and grandchildren I cherish and an abiding faith that I follow. I believe in Alabama. I believe in her people and our potential. I see both the good and the possible. I want an Alabama with a first-class education system for all our children, with for a world-class vocational training and a vibrant, innovative economy that attracts quality jobs and new industry. As we enter the final stretch of this campaign, I want to close with the same words I said when I first began last May. I'm running for the U.S. Senate because our leaders have lost sight of what it means to serve, to make a positive difference in people's lives. We need leaders with reasoned voices and who are more interested in dialogues than monologues. Leaders people can talk to and trust. Alabama has been embarrassed long enough by political leaders who have not been leaders at all. Instead of listening to and addressing the problems that affect working families every day, like better jobs, wages, health care, and education for all Alabamians, they've ignored those issues. They've played on our fears and exploited our divisions. I want to change all that. So please join me. Together we can give hope to those who have lost it, restore confidence in our democracy, start making a real progress for working families in our state. The vision that was articulated in May is still the vision of today. These goals are what this campaign has been all about. This is our moment, our challenge, but our opportunity. Together we can build a better Alabama that works for all citizens, a better Alabama that we can be proud to have built and be proud to pass it on to our children and grandchildren, and particularly our daughters and granddaughters, knowing that we have done our part to leave our state better than we found it, knowing we answer the call to move Alabama forward, and knowing that together we were on the right side of history. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you.